All strength starts at the hands and feet. Take this viral video as an example. Here's an older man competing against an elite strongman, both trying to lift the same heavy dumbbell. Surprising, right? You'd expect the younger, more muscular man to lift the weight easily and the older, less muscular man to struggle. But the opposite happened. The strongman's grip clearly lagged behind his overall strength, while the older man's grip was perfectly aligned with his body strength. This shows that you're only as strong as your weakest link. Same principle applies to your toes and feet. Many people have weak feet that limit their body's potential, holding them back from reaching higher levels of strength and fitness. In this video, I'll show you the first step to strengthening your feet through toe-splay, so they're no longer your weakest link. Toe-splay is the ability to spread the toes so that they form the widest part of the foot. This is the exact foot shape of newborns, which is an indication that it's the most natural foot shape before various lifestyle factors affect their form. So let's dive into some of the research to see exactly why maintaining toe-splay is so beneficial. Firstly, it widens your footprint, creating a stable 3-point base of support similar to a tripod. We can compare the stabilizing function of toe-splay to the way we intuitively spread our fingers during a handstand. Look at these examples from the most popular handstand tutorials online. Not one had their fingers tightly squeezed together. They all spread them out widely to stabilize themselves, just as our toes should do when our feet carry our bodies. It's just common sense that when you widen your foundation, you become more stable. Second, toe-splay helps align the intrinsic muscles connected to the toes. When aligned, the muscles are in the optimal position to activate powerfully, creating a more stable foot arch that supports all upright movements. Research has validated this connection between toe misalignment and flat feet, with one study on 32 women showing that all their participants who had flat feet also presented with toe misalignment. To understand this concept better, we can think of the bicep curl. The version of this movement that allows you to move the most weight is when the palms are facing upwards. This is because in this position, the bicep that runs from the base of the shoulder to the forearm are aligned perfectly, and so are in their most powerful position for contraction. If we were to twist our hands the way we would for a reverse grip curl, the rotation twists the muscles out of perfect alignment, and so contraction power is lost and less weight can be lifted. The foot muscles are twisted and power is lost in exactly the same way when the toes lose their alignment. But we wanted to validate this ourselves with a real strength test. We're at UCLan University Sports Lab. I've got a handheld dynamometer, and I'm going to test the amount of toe strength I have pushing down on this pad when it's in perfect alignment versus when it's out of alignment in that classic bunion shape. Let's start. I'm going to reset this here. First up, we're going to start with that classic bunion shape. You can see it's called hallux valgus. All right, I'm going to push down as hard as I can in 3, 2, 1. 12.9 kilograms of force. Okay, I'm going to reset it. I'm going to take a short rest. I want to tell you, the hypothesis here is that when the toe is in good alignment, all the muscles running from that great toe into the foot, they have a straight line of action, which means they have more mechanical advantage to contract. And so they should exert more force when the toe is in good alignment. So let's test it out. Test 2. Toes in good alignment. Okay, set up good. All right, in 3, 2, 1. $15.7 kilograms of force. So it's clearly more. Hypothesis confirmed. But I want to do another test. I want to see the other 4 toes combined, if they can beat the strength of the big toe. So we've got 15.7 to beat. All right, reset. You're going to turn the pad around so they can accommodate the four smaller toes together. Big toes off, not contributing at all. All right, 3, 2, 1.
14.1. So less pressing strength than the big toe on its own. This proves how important the big toe is for our foot strength. The big toe is out of alignment, doesn't matter about the other 4 toes, you're not going to have strong feet.
The third reason toe-splay is important is that it allows the toes to have the greatest range of motion. This is the amount of great toe mobility I was able to get in perfect alignment versus out of alignment. There was a whopping 30 degrees difference between the two. Research on people with bunions had similar findings. The reason this happens is because when the toe bones are shifted off their axis, it limits the ability to move freely. This misalignment also creates tension in the surrounding connective tissues, further restricting mobility. Try this. Move your pointer finger out of position. You should immediately feel tension build up around the knuckle joint. This is exactly what happens in the feet. So what happens to your body when you don't have good toe mobility? Well, when we walk or run, we want to rely on full extension of the toes, knees, and hips to effectively push off the ground at the end of each step. This is called triple extension. Now, if the toes can't extend properly, it disrupts this chain by limiting the extension of the knees and hips. And when the knees and hips can't extend fully, the quads and glutes are restricted in how much power they can generate, reducing overall performance. Do you see the domino effect? This upstream effect of toe mobility doesn't just impact movements like walking or running. I tested my glute function using high-tech EMG shorts during weighted goblet squats, comparing 2 conditions, squishing my toes together versus using silicone toe spacers to passively splay the toes. As you can see, when my toes were squeezed together, I had higher hamstring activity than glute activity. However, with toe spacers on, my glutes were more active than my hamstrings during the set of squats. I find it so interesting that when the feet are stabilized through improved toe splay, muscular recruitment patterns are altered upstream, which in this case showed greater glute activity. This is definitely something I want to dive deeper into in the future to improve my understanding of the mechanics at play here. If it's something that you guys are interested in too, then let us know in the comments so that we can make the follow-up video happen. Okay, so let's do a quick recap of why toe splay is important for body strength before we move on to the main causes and fixes of restricted toe splay. First, toe splay widens your footprint, increasing your base of support. Second, toe splay aligns the muscles of the feet, making them more effective at maintaining a stable foot arch, setting a solid foundation for all upright movement. And finally, toe splay improves toe mobility, which helps unlock more power in the larger leg and hip muscles. Now on to the causes and fixes. There are 3 we will focus on in this video, starting locally at the toes, moving up to the arches, and finally to the ankles. While these are not all the factors affecting the toe's ability to splay, they are the issues most easily addressed and have the greatest impact. Arguably, the main cause of limited toe splay is restrictive footwear that narrows in the front. If the toe box is not the widest part of the shoe, how can the toes stay the widest part of the foot? This is the case for most modern footwear. Look at how this popular sneaker pulls my great toe 25 degrees out of alignment, and this popular running shoe by 20 degrees. Neither of these designs allow my toes to splay. So what's the fix? We need shoes that can accommodate for toe splay. We call these types of shoes foot-shaped. Rather than just widen the pointy design of traditional shoes, these shoes follow the natural shape of the foot so that the widest point is at the great toe rather than the center. This design allows the toes to not only spread out but remain in perfect alignment. But here's the catch. Switching to wide foot-shaped shoes alone may not be enough to regain toe splay. This was proven in a study on people with bunions who showed no improvement in toe alignment after 12 months of wearing wide toe box shoes. But when the researchers combined silicone toe spacers with wide toe box shoes, the participants showed much greater improvement in their toe alignment. So how do we interpret this?
Over many years in narrow footwear, the toes can become stuck in this restricted position and lose their ability to splay on their own. Through temporary use of silicone spacers, the toes are assisted in regaining their natural splay and alignment. But where do you begin looking for the correct shaped shoes and silicone spacers? This was a problem I had faced since discovering this research back in 2018, and it wasn't easily solved by going to my local store. So after 6 years of dealing with this issue, I decided to solve it myself by creating a database of all the best foot-shaped shoe brands throughout the world and putting them all onto one website. But that wasn't enough. My team and I also organized every shoe according to their characteristics. Say you have very wide feet, you can just go to our advanced filters, click on toe box width and select extra wide. Now you'll see all the foot-shaped shoes that can accommodate your feet. You can find our site by searching for Find My Shoes, or just go to the link in the description where I've also included links to our favorite silicone toe spacers. Moving on. We have previously established that when you lack the ability to actively splay your toes, it causes weakening of the connected intrinsic foot muscles that hold up the arch. But when the foot muscles are weakened through other means, which I'll cover shortly, then they cause a feedback loop, further affecting toe splay. When the arches collapse, the toes are forced out of alignment and lose their ability to splay even further. So it's a vicious cycle. The main cause of foot weakness is the use of cushioned and stiff footwear. These shoes limit the 33 joints in each foot from moving freely, essentially paralyzing the muscles. It's like when we wear a cast after a bone break. The cast limits movement so that the bones can properly heal. But after a few weeks, when the cast comes off, that limb is usually left with muscles that have severely weakened through lack of movement. On top of this, just like grip strength, very few people actively spend time working on specific foot strengthening exercises. They'll do everything from forearm exercise to neck exercises, but the feet, they're just forgotten in their stiff casts. It's crazy to me, since the feet are literally the foundation that supports our entire body and has to deal with huge impact stress from running, jumping, supporting large weights during lifts, and everything else we have to do while standing upright. So it makes sense that when these muscles are not attended to, they eventually start lagging behind the rest. Good news is we can bring our feet back up to speed in two ways. The first is through the use of shoes that are flexible enough to allow more mobility through the 33 joints, thereby better activating the intrinsic foot muscles. These types of shoes are called barefoot or minimalist shoes, as they mimic the feeling and freedom of being barefoot. A recent study on the effectiveness of these shoes for improving foot strength found that by just casually wearing them for 6 months, foot strength increased by almost 60%. The sole thicknesses they used in the study was about 3 millimeters. My team and I have tested hundreds of these kinds of shoes over the years, and we found that shoes with soles of about 10 millimeters start getting pretty stiff and would start limiting proper mobility. To solve this issue, we included sole thickness categories on Find My Shoes, with the first 2 options all being under 10 millimeters. So it's really easy to find foot strength promoting shoes on our site too. The second way to build strength in the feet is through dedicated foot strengthening exercises. The one best suited for promoting toe splay is the toe spread out exercise. All you have to do is simply try to spread your toes as wide as possible and then contract them. A recent study found the toe spread out exercise to better activate the biggest intrinsic foot muscle, the adductor hallucis, compared to other more well-known foot exercises. Interestingly, it's also the first foot exercise babies do reflexively after birth. You can see my 2 daughters doing this as newborns. What I also like about this exercise is that it's non-weight bearing. So if you're injured, overweight, or lack stability through the feet, then this is an exercise that is much safer to start with than any of the others. But if you feel that you just can't spread your toes and they feel glued together, or the big toe lifts instead of spreading out, then it could mean that you have a muscle imbalance in the feet.
To address this problem, you could start with silicone spaces first to help passively splay the toes and train them into this position. In our Strong Feet course, we have developed a 4-step system to retrain the toes to splay. We also include more advanced versions of this exercise that introduce resistance. Just know, it takes time to build strength and coordination in this exercise, but it's really worth it in the end. And now onto the final cause and fix. Toe splay is often restricted by lack of ankle dorsiflexion, which is what happens at the ankles when the knees move over the toes. Ankle mobility is essential for walking, running, and squatting. When there is not enough ankle dorsiflexion, the body looks for a way to complete these movements. It does this by spinning out and overpronating the foot, causing the arch to collapse. This compensation essentially turns the midfoot into a second ankle joint. The problem is that when the foot overpronates and the arch collapses, the toes are pushed out of alignment and lose their ability to splay. The simplest way to increase ankle mobility is to choose to spend time in full range of motion positions. For instance, spending 10 hours a day in a chair where the ankles are stuck in neutral doesn't challenge their range of motion. But if a portion of that time was spent sitting in a squat or on a low stool, the ankles would regularly be challenged through a wider range of motion. Now, I know that just getting the hips below the knees feels impossible for some. So in that case, you can use a vertical support for assisted leverage to keep your torso upright and pull yourself deeper into the squat. This is actually one of the first ankle mobility drills we teach in our Strong Feet course. It's really effective for beginners. So, to recap the causes and fixes. First, you want to get out of narrow toe box shoes that prevent toe splay, and rather opt for foot-shaped shoes that allow space for the toes to become the widest part of the foot. Silicone spaces can also be used in combination with foot-shaped shoes for better results. Second, you want to also find shoes with soles that are less than 10 millimeters thick to promote extra mobility in the feet. Coupled with regular use of the toe spread out exercise for strength development, this combo can prevent the collapsing of the foot arches, improving the ability to splay the toes. And third, you want to improve ankle dorsiflexion to prevent tight ankles from collapsing the foot arches and further restricting toe splay. This can be achieved through regularly spending time in positions like the squat, which promote full range of motion through the ankles. If you found this video helpful, check out our other content on this channel, and I'll see you there.